Hello, thanks for coming to my talk, Respecting the Masterpiece, Silent Hill 2 Remake Level Design Postmortem. And I promise next time the title will be shorter than that. My name is Monika Chmura, and I see that some stuff in my presentation is moved a little bit, but a few words about me. I've been in game industry for around 12 years right now. During that time, I had pleasure to work on several projects, which the most recent one is Silent Hill 2. So today's talk may focus. And I'll be doing mostly level design for those projects. Although during Silent Hill 2, I switched to combat design, so that's why confusion might come from, because currently in a Bloober team, I work as a lead combat designer for an announced title. And today's talk is focused entirely on level design, but I won't be talking about some tips and tricks. I won't be giving you any advice of how to do level design, nor I won't be presenting any universal solutions, because, to be honest, I don't believe there are such things, because each project and each thing is kind of different and needs some different approach. And instead, I will focus on development journey for a specific case in specific project. I will tell you a little bit of what ups and downs we had with the level that I will be telling you about. And I really hope that presented conclusions in the end will help you or be inspiring for your work. And Silent Hill 2, yeah, so I will have a question, like, anyone maybe played original game here? Awesome. And the remake, did you guys have a chance? Oh, that's nice, thanks. So those who had a chance to play especially original game will agree that it's one of the best horror games ever made. And when we learned that we're gonna be the one making, remaking it, we're both really excited, but at the same time quite scared, to be frank, because we knew that the bar is, okay, so I see that it's overlapping a little bit, but we knew that the bar is raised really high, so we knew that we're gonna match those high standards. And it was created almost 24 years ago. By the time we started production, it was around 20 years. So some of the solutions, especially on the gameplay side, were kind of vintage. And we knew that we're going to need to tweak them, especially for newcomers to the series. So it was, quite interesting for us to notice that points in the gameplay and decided on a way of that improvement. And it's also psychological horror, which means that the main focus for Silent Hill series is atmosphere, and we really wanted to recreate it, and that was kind of the thing that we really hoped we're gonna deliver. And it's famously known for its storytelling, so a lot of metaphors, layers within the story, within the characters. So it was kind of challenging to actually not miss anything really important and not to misinterpret any story beat. And above all, Silent Hill series has huge fan base of really dedicated people, so we didn't want to fail fans, basically. And we have a really big group of those among our team, so it was also, a huge thing for us internally. And actually, we really felt the pressure raising when we presented our reveal trailer, and the world actually was aware that we are those behind the remake. And today, I want to talk a little bit about apartment building complex, but I'll be focusing mostly on Woodside Apartments, and I will tell you briefly how we went from this, which is original game layout, and ended up with this, which is how it looks in the remake. As you can see, there are certain things quite similar, but a lot of differences. And how this journey began. So the first thing was that we decided to change the camera perspective. And it's something quite common for modern, both like survival horrors and psychological horrors to have this like TPP type of camera. But it's connected to the fact that players are going to see more. And for us, it was really important because we felt pretty strong in terms of like art departments, and Bloober team is quite known for its approach to the art style, and our games look always beautiful. So we knew it's kind of opportunity for us to create interesting vistas. And well, stunning visuals in general. Another thing is that it forced us to change the scale of a game a little bit. Well, not that little bit, to be honest. It was like much bigger scale than original game. Because not only we wanted to prepare more spaces to explore for players, but also we wanted those spaces in the game to be realistic. And by realistic, I mean more believable, so you would feel that actually the locations would be resembling the real spaces that you can encounter in the cities, especially American ones. And it also connects to the seamless experience, which means no loading screens. Loading screens was actually a big part of a gameplay experience in original game because each even apartment was separate level. And we knew that our gameplay experience, because we won't have it, would be a little bit different. And with all that, we made several we set some level design main goals. Obviously, rearranging spaces to match new camera. And we wanted to create a sense of locations that player visit. So, so you will have this, it will be memorable locations, but also that they will be kind of recognizable. So, especially players that played original game would have this familiar feeling with entering certain levels. We also wanted to eliminate frustrating backtracking. It's not that backtracking is bad, because it's part of a game experience, it's part of the level design, but when players actually became stuck, became frustrating, it's kind of a problem. So there were a few moments in original game when it happened, and we wanted to tweak those by implementing more loops within geometry. So you wouldn't have to go back long way. There won't be any dead ends that may cause that frustration. And it connects to the shortcut as introduction shortcuts for players, which, so when you get to the certain point on the level, you quite a long time have opportunity to just unlock, for example, doors, and then like you enter the same spot, or like, yeah, it serves as a faster way of traveling between certain parts of a level. We also wanted to create more natural blocks in progressions, which mean that, for example, even in Woodside Apartments, you cannot pick up the gun unless you pick up the flashlight first. So especially for newcomers, such situation might be quite confusing, and we wanted to kind of spot that and tweak those moments. And general, as a rule, backtracking, we wanted backtracking to be more organic, so a lot of our levels have this labyrinth kind of structure, but due to like those shortcuts and loops in the geometry, you have this feeling, even if you like going in circles, you have this feeling of progression in general, so you are progressing in the game. And we wanted to expand flow to match new puzzles and mechanics. We knew from the beginning that we're gonna have more puzzles in the game in general, and elements of those puzzles needed to find a place in level flow. And also, we had some new mechanics, especially important for level design as traversals or breakable glass, so we could create it. We could create like new passages for players to, to enter certain locations and so on. And actually, with all that, we started dissecting levels. And my job was to take care of apartment buildings, which in fact are two separate levels. So we have Woodside Apartments and Blue Creek Apartments. And Woodside is part of, well, it's one of the levels that is fog world, as we called it, which means that those levels are those like foggy, more mystical ones, more grounded in reality. And Blue Creek is otherworld location, where so those locations are one when the horror became more visceral, when you have rust, metal, cloth on the walls and ceilings, and they are more destroyed, kind of, so more nightmarish version of Silent Hill. And in original game, Blue Creek wasn't that type of location, but due to some pacing tweaks, we decided that this is the perfect place to introduce this otherworld sections. And also, Woodside is first big interior location, and we wanted to keep that, although we introduced small interior in the first city, but it's not like, it couldn't be like separate level, it's part of the city. And Woodside is left as this first big interior. It has several NPCs like that are crucial for Silent Hill. So the introduction for Laura, Eddie, and Pyramid Head is happening in that level. Also, from the gameplay perspective, players receive flashlight and handgun. And it also has introduction of one of the basic enemies called mannequin. While Blue Creek has this Angela iconic cutscene, so this one with a mirror and with a knife. That is even on the splash screen of the game. Boss fight with Pyramid Head, so we wanted to keep it in that location, obviously. And we decided to introduce the new type of enemy, which is some type of enemy that we have in the remake, so Lying Figure Otherworld version. This is the version of the very first enemy that player encounter after entering the city for the first time. And it has some other skills, and we decided that this level would be a good place to have it, to keep the right spacing between enemies' introduction. And with all that, we made several apartment assumptions. So we wanted to separate both buildings more, and we wanted to keep that that rule that they are kind of separate level. We wanted even to enhance it more. That's why, for example, the other word helped us a little bit with that for the Blue Creek. And we wanted to keep a visual connection between those two buildings and show the place where player actually progresses from one level to the other. And as you can see here is the screen like without the fog, and with different camera angle from the original game. The Blue Creek, red brick, and gray bluish is well, Woodside, and the bluish is a Blue Creek, and pool in the middle. So you can see that those buildings kind of are, connected to each other. And actually, in the original game, the pool is in a courtyard that is kind of a U shape. And here, from the remake, you can see like two buildings with the gap. So this is like the Blue Creek and Woodside on the left side. But yeah, like we have this gap really visible. And if player will investigate it, then while jumping between buildings, they can connect the dots and kind of locate themselves on a apartments map. We also wanted to determine main puzzles, because part of our core gameplay loop is having main puzzle in location and smaller puzzles to kind of support it. But we did switch here. So in Woodside Apartments, we decided to go with coin puzzle, which, in our opinion, fit the theme and the metaphors that we wanted to sell there way better. Because in original game, that cabinet was in Blue Creek. And we also, and because of that, we kind of pushed clock puzzle, like expanded that quite a lot. But we pushed that to be Blue Creek main puzzle, again, like better fitting the theme and the metaphors that are on that level. We also wanted to fix flow problems, so stuff that like I mentioned, with general problems of backtracking, of certain aspects of flow not being informative enough or telegraphed for players. And other crucial thing was underlining Rosewater Park as a goal, because it's very vague what to do in original game from time to time. So you are so it works there, but especially for new players that are not familiar with the series, again, that might be a problem. And for obvious reasons, we didn't want to have, I don't know, mission markers. That could be weird. With the geometry and with the narrative design, like leaving the notes here and there, we kind of wanted players to know that at this point of the game, their goal is to reach Rosewater Park. We wanted to keep apartments claustrophobic feeling, as you can see, because that's kind of a trademarks for apartments, that you have this very narrow corridor, you feel trapped, and that is really a huge part of that level, so it was crucial for us to keep it. And at this point, we said no to supernatural puzzles for forward sections, which means that even though it's all Silent Hill, we didn't want those forward levels to have some, things out of this world. So everything should be rather explainable. So all the mechanism in the puzzles could be possible to create like in real life. So we were really dedicated to keep that rule through entire game. And with that, like, please don't be too attached to the timelines, because to be honest, like, recreating that was kind of hard for me. We had obviously milestones, but they were changing dates from time to time. But around October, we started doing first concepts for, like, starting doing research and first concepts for the apartments. And with gathering references, obvious choice is to go to the movies, or rather search in memory movies that can help you with creating direction for your level design. So here's one of the mood boards that we had for the game. That one is created by our creative director, Mateusz Lenart, and it kind of shows in which direction we wanted to go with the Woodside Apartments. But for me, also, movies serve as a good reference for the geometry. I don't know if anyone can recognize the movie here. It's Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock. And to be honest, I love it because, as you can see, it's like finished level. So you have a lot of verticality, a lot of platforms. So you can easily imagine the paths for the player. And that kind of became one of my crucial references for apartments. But it also kind of it was also kind of corresponding with us figuring out the general direction, like visual direction for the buildings, because buildings of apartments are not, like, are a little bit standing out from the rest of the city. And they are more resembling the New York type of apartments, so I kind of went with that thought with my research. And I found amazing thing called the World's Loose Leaf album of apartment houses. And it's like a free to download album of apartment buildings in New York with a lot of floor plans, some additional information about the buildings themselves. And as you can see, here's the biggest part of the apartment's geometry, which is the courtyard idea, because as I mentioned previously, the pool was this courtyard thing, but I really wanted to expand it and push it a little bit farther. And courtyard idea seemed like a perfect thing to do. And with that, we started, well, first blockout attempts, but there was a, well, little bummer for my level designer journey, because I became involved in combat design around that time. But obviously, like, we had some deliverables for milestones, so the blockout needed to proceed. And I'm mentioning combat design here because the Blue Creek Apartments section was kind of hurt a little bit by that. But yeah. So with the first blockouts, it's, as you can see, one of the first screenshots from the engine. We were starting production on Unreal 4, so but we switched pretty soon to Unreal 5. And with those first blockout attempts, the goal was to find the right scale, not only for the building, but also for the apartments, for the corridors. As I mentioned, like, those corridors needed to be quite narrow. Also, to make the apartment buildings like believable as an apartment, it needs to have certain amount of apartments themselves, which not necessarily corresponds with amount of gameplay that we had prepared for that level. But so we were, trying to find a sweet spot, as well as we tried to find a sweet spot for elements of interior and exterior elements, which means that as I mentioned, like it's supposed to be, this first big interior location, and like the courtyard idea is kind of not maybe entirely corresponding with that, because having a courtyard means basically that players should go to that courtyard from time to time, at least. So we were kind of balancing the amount of time that players will spend in interiors and, outside the building. And we were placing the crucial bits of the level on a level map, figuring out connection between buildings, so this transition point from Woodside to Blue Creek. And I had this idea that, okay, let's follow the courtyard idea even more, and let's have Blue Creek layout based on a clock face, because why not? And we were also figuring out additional puzzles that should, fulfill the flow and help with underlining this coin puzzle for Woodside as a main puzzle. And here you can see that's one of the very first layouts idea for the Woodside. I want to point out a few things here. The first is that the corridor, as you can see, is pretty long. And that was actually the thing that we quite soon discovered that, okay, it works perfectly when you have fixed camera and you can do some tricks and, it's not boring. But if you have TPP game and you have very long corridor without anything, then this geometry is not working well. And also the pool section, even if we follow the original game and have Blue Creek on the left side, then we still have a lot of place that is quite open, and we need to figure out what should be behind the fence. So it was also problematic. And the small courtyard, so the thing that kind of appeared from the beginning, that helped created that loop of corridors around it. Also, here is one of the versions for the Blue Creek transitions. And also, I want to point out the staircases, so 3 staircases and the placement, because it kind of helped me a little bit with imagining the paths for the players and with doing those loops, because there are a lot of possibilities with that placement that actually you can do with the paths. So it was kind of important from the start. And here's some progress. As you can see, the straight corridor is no more. So we decided to break those corridors and to have this nice horror vibe of something hidden behind the corner. And Blue Creek transitions, because of that, again, switched place a little bit. And here's one of the first blockouts of this inner courtyard section, the small courtyard, yeah. Some progress. And I want to mention one thing here, because we were kind of dedicated for this bit to be very visually pleasing, and we had a lot of discussions on the height of the building, because for visual reasons, we needed to have those 4 parts of this external staircase. But it was kind of problematic, because if we added 4th floor, then it looked really bad. And we decided to go in the end with the last floor being kind of an attic type of space, so it's a little bit lower, and then we could leave this cool visual, but not saying to player that, hey, there's whole another floor for you to explore, because it might be really, overwhelming. And here's some very first sketches for the Blue Creek layout. As you can see, there's this courtyard idea here visible. And the clock face, I don't know if you can see that, but maybe it's my imagination, but I hope it's a little bit visible. What's important here is that this courtyard kind of was meant to be the boss arena, because in the original game, boss arena is kind of really small staircase, so we knew that we're gonna need different space for that. And this courtyard, again, like serves as a really good thing to go for that. And here is one of the crazy blockouts thing. It looks really bad. But the whole idea here was to kind of try to combine those two buildings together. And we kind of quite soon noticed that we have limited space in the city. So Blue Creek needs to fit certain part. And we cannot do it that way because it will make those apartments go way too close to the park even. So it was really, crazy on me to go with that. But hey, like, what's the test phase is for? And also Blue Creek transition again, like moved a little bit, and because of that crazy test on the Blue Creek layout, the pool went a little bit in a different place, and almost immediately get back to the previous one. So around 2022, we do some big internal tests. But in that year, the great news happened because Blue Creek finally received proper support from LD. So amazing people came and took care of this location. So I was not involved in that anymore. So it's not my story to tell you how we went from this and ended up with this. But with the Woodside, after around 1 year, like I was a little bit in that state, because we noticed that we have several problems. The location was too big. Well, judging by the blockouts, like, you cannot be too surprised. But I guess I was back then. Players lose goal quite soon at the beginning of the level. So the whole thing with Rosewater Park went to hell at this point. And progression within higher floors was kind of adding to that, because I was really dedicated at first to keep even the placement of certain bits of the apartments in a place that they were in original game, which wasn't good, because the layout changed too much to do it. And for example, the Laura cutscene at first was on the 3rd floor, which was like close to how it was in original game. But that added to the fact that player could go almost immediately to the 3rd floor, and it became really chaotic because you were switching floors multiple times. And despite that, the beginning were way too slow, so we needed to bring those important bits faster. And from the visual side, we kind of noticed that players had a problem with orientation, and that was because of not enough diversity in visuals for floors. And for the apartments too, because of they kind of had quite repetitive geometry. Well, they are built more or less on the same base, and it's not that weird considering how the apartments building are working. But in a game, it's not good enough, and it's really a problem. So we really needed to address that. So I was a little bit as a pyramid head here because we decided to cut almost entire first floor. As I mentioned, like LoRa cutscene was kind of well, problematic, and those problems will come back in a second, spoiler alert. And we decided to close additional apartments. By additional, I mean that at first we had, you know, like we aimed big, like we thought that we're gonna have a lot of additional content that eventually will fill those empty spaces. But we clearly, well, we quite soon discovered that no one needs that, basically. Like, we don't need to have additional content. The only thing that we need to have is like, you know, keeping, like being as faithful as possible to the original game. And here you can see one of the flow iterations, but the layout, you know, is the one that well, made to the end, so yay, finally. But I want to point out a few things here. So the Blue Creek transition changed place again, and I was really struggling internally because I don't know if you ever saw the apartment building which has like the apartments like looking like that, because I haven't, like that was the first time. And it was, you know, I was crying a little bit internally, but then it actually made sense because it's Silent Hill, so nothing is that obvious. And it kind of really helped us build this metaphor around the apartment buildings. And it looks like it's supposed to be on a Blue Creek section, but ended up in the Woodside section. So it all makes sense here and like adds to this metaphor and narrative layer of those locations. Here, the funny fact, because to address this like boring beginning of the level, I kind of tried to bring flashlight earlier on, and this is very entrance to the building, so it's kind of next to it. And that was the iteration when mannequin were supposed to block passage between apartments. That's why this like green arrow there. And obviously, like it, well, thankfully didn't end up with that. And placement of LoRa cutscene. As I mentioned, it was a problematic bit because I imagined that we can do it, we can place it there, and we couldn't because that was one of the very first cutscenes that had production log because we wanted to use it in our reveal trailer, and therefore, like the progression, like development progression for that cutscene was quite advanced. And we couldn't rotate it. So the only choice or possibility that I have was to keep it as it was, but move it, well, on the second or on the first floor. But it needed to be in the same, well, place, kind of. Another funny thing is that we had a prisoner puzzle that I will tell you a little bit more in a second, but it's one of the puzzles that we developed for the remake. And at first, it also serves as a transition point in this part of the building. And as you can see, third floor cut almost entirely, but well, we didn't have it in final game, although you could say that amount of the space is the same. We have different apartments, different sections open, and that initially planned as open one is cut. And here's a screen from this version of the event where you pick up the flashlight and like mannequin unlocks the progression by by moving itself from the like this squeeze between two apartments. And visual improvements, so different themes, visual themes for each floor, and increased environmental storytelling in apartments to address those problems with orientation. So for the first floor, we have the white paint and white tails, and for the second floor, we decided to keep this characteristic blue color. And for the third floor too, but we come up with renovation idea to distinguish those two floors more, so you wouldn't have to like wonder on which floor you are currently in. And we are also iterating on coin puzzle, so we wanted to design mechanism that would be realistic and elevate, generally speaking, the metaphor layer behind that. So that's one of the mock-ups. It's ugly, it's made by me. That's why. This is a mock-up for the mechanism, but thankfully you have great artists and concept artists who elevated, well, like that log idea and change it a little bit. So we have like the moon face and the sun in the log. So as you can see, like we were really paying attention to details. And here's some references for the ornaments on the cupboard. And we were also like figuring out the mechanism that showed the text for the puzzle, because we felt that it may be more cylinder-like, but we discovered that we won't be able to fit whole text for the puzzle, so we went up with more rectangular shape, and we ended up with that. And we were kind of, progressing with the production, and we had gold. Yeah, those splash screens were really, keeping morale during productions. And that's why I said that don't be too attached to the dates, because yes, we have, after we finished gold milestone, we had a few months to polish and focus on bugs before we ended up the production like entirely and has release in October. So what changes we were cooking during full production cycle? So we had, as I mentioned, like multiple iterations of third floor and shoot puzzle. Shoot puzzle is the thing that was in original game, this weird interaction when for unknown reason you decide to throw the juice cans into the chute to unlock, unclosed it and find the coin inside. And we wanted to keep it as one of the important bits in Woodside. And here you can see some comparison between original game and the remake, and some concept for it. And because of those like third floor changes, it changed also multiple times, because we were putting it to second floor, to third floor, like, trying to figure out on which floor it should be. Laura cutscene mentioned before, as you can see from the visual side, is quite close to how it was. We were also reworking the flow a few times, as you could see, but that connects to the events like Pyramid had first meeting. So remember how I told you about us breaking corridors not to be that straight. So it kind of appears that it might be a problem, because Pyramid Head introduction needs to be in a straight corridor. And we really tried to find a place for that event to to be in a corridor that has that is long enough and that allows us to create that darkness. That is the word. Darkness behind the character. And also pistol room, because of that, change the place, and so called in production TV room, because those three events are kind of connected. So we really wanted to keep that chain of events from the original game. When you meet Pyramid Head, then you pick up the gun, you hear the weird noise, like weird scream, and then you get back to the apartment that you were before and find a dead body in front of TV. So this whole thing, well, it was kind of a brainer to find the right place for those events to kind of have right spacing and to include them within the flow in that way. Flashlight event, as I mentioned, also changed several times because we ended up, fortunately, with how it was in original games. So, like, you pick up the flashlight, you wake up the mannequin. So, obviously, metaphor connected to like the story. So, I'm really happy that we ended up with it. And Eddie, in our game, it's a transition apartment between interior and exterior. Here, again, like mix of some concepts and screens from original game and remake. And it was also quite interesting because we needed to find the right geometry for the apartment because it needed to show the dead body. The size of the bathroom needed to be big enough to fit the cameras for the cutscene. The cutscene was triggered on a trigger, so like we needed to build walls in the way that would make it possible. And we needed to have this window that you can exit the apartment with that. Blueprint transition, again, mentioned by me multiple times, and some concepts for the door. We kind of made this door important part of the narrative, so we can notice it in several places in the game. So if you haven't played, like, you can try to find where. We're also going back and forth with prisoner room puzzle, mentioned very briefly by me before. So this is the puzzle that was not in original game, and we developed it for the remake. At first, we had Shining as a reference, but quite soon we discovered that it won't serve well our purposes. So we went with the wardrobe design that is kind of furniture that is hiding, hidden passage. And here you can see some early concepts of this puzzle. So we thought that on the other side of the wall, you're going to have painting that will have lines that will lead you to the numbers, and those numbers will be the code for the safe. So like a lot of ideas there. But fortunately, again, thanks to the concepts, I don't know if you can see anything because I can't. Well, you have to believe me, it's an amazing concept. So we kind of ended up with this. Can you please turn off the lights for a second, just for the slide, please. Oh, a little bit better. Okay, I know it's not perfect, but yeah, so we ended up with this. So you are in this complete darkness, and you use your flashlight to find the numbers, and you need to figure out the code based on the poem on the wall. Yeah, thanks. So it was kind of the field that we wanted from the beginning, but we couldn't, we struggled for a long time to actually get there. We're also working on the shapes in geometry to make them more visually appealing. So that was a major thing for the pool area. As you notice, like the pool changes place also a few times. And I did this ugly thing. And again, thanks for the art team. They come up with the L-shape pool, and it fits pretty well in the space that we had available. And this is how it looks in the game. I wanted to be fancy and do some screenshots from the engine, so it might have been a little better. But it also refers to the main staircase, this geometry thing, because at first we wanted to have staircase that is boring. And thanks to my colleague, when he doing one of the playtest runs for the Woodside, he said that like having this main staircase is a must because it makes Woodside Apartments. So thankfully we were able to fit it in the level geometry, and yeah, I cannot now imagine this level without it. So yeah, it was really important. And small courtyard, so the initial bit that it was one of those places that kind of wasn't that much influenced by the whole changes. So yeah, like I wanted to just show you the pretty picture. So some final thoughts. What I learned from that long journey is the scalable design is a key. So as I mentioned, this ability to cut certain parts of the level, to iterate on the flow on the flow multiple times. It was crucial here not to get too crazy. Although I have a lot of gray hair, you can guess why. But yeah, like it was really a really big thing and one of my big takeouts from this production. So just that flexibility to be able to cut and move stuff around. And also, the very important thing became like strong geometry concept. So this like courtyard idea that I built location around. And as you could see, this small courtyard wasn't that much impacted, as I mentioned, by those changes. So it was really helping during those changes process. And last but not least, the team. My cooperation with our team was really crucial because we were helping each other. We were talking together about the plan for the level, and and Woodside Apartments wouldn't be even close to being a good level without this team. And by the team, I mean the Strike team, so amazing people that I had pleasure working on that location. And concept art that is on that presentation is made by Piotr Krężelewski, so big kudos to Piotrek. And another list of people that had huge impact on Woodside, especially like, the extra medal is for the QA team, because our QA team not only were people who were pointing bugs, but they were really like lore guardians multiple times, and yeah, they did an amazing job on that project. But to be perfectly honest, the fact that we are in pyramid shape is, coincidence, I guess. But to be honest, that was like the team project, and I really mean that, because cooperation between different departments was really close, and we're really helping each other and motivating each other to to kind of deliver the best Silent Hill possible. And in fact, I think we are able to make it in that way, because there is no biggest award than happiness of players. So we're beyond, we didn't expect that, to be perfectly frank. So it means a lot to us. And that would be it. Thanks a lot for listening. So I believe that we have still a few minutes for questions, if you have anything.
We have a couple minutes for questions. Just raise your hand, and we'll come.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, sorry.
Hey.
I was just wondering how the whole journey that you described looked like from a perspective of working with Konami. Directly, the question is, did they needed an acceptance of every change from the original, or they just gave you like freedom to do your work?
Well, to be honest, we kind of they kind of trusted us with everything, and that was a really big part of it. Obviously, like they were, at first very cautious, because they needed to see that we understand the brand and we understand the assignment. But once we proved that, like we know what we are doing, they were like, okay, you guys go with it, because it's clearly going into the right direction. So there wasn't a need for them to keep the strong hand, and there was a lot of trust between us and them.
Cool, thank you. And then at the end, they had comments and final changes, or not really?
But you mean that?
Yeah, they had some. Have you guys faced a situation that you are very close to the gold, and Konami says, "No, change this level"?
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the talk. It's a great talk. I have two specifically level design questions. So first of all, after playing the game, I kind of understood that lighting, sounds, and most importantly, the fog is really important for the final feel of the locations. And I guess it comes to the game kind of later than the early blockouts. And how you, as level designers and the level design team, make sure that even on blockout early stages, the locations feel right, that the mood is right, that team understands the vision, and how this cooperation works, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that the mood boards are really important part of the process, because they kind of show what we should aim at, and obviously. When you do the blockout, then you have certain phases, and it's and when the visual started happening, then we had first pass of lightning, and then the second one. We are constantly doing passes, and so each team were adding to the whole in kind of intervals. So the mood boards, and we kind of had the concepts. That was also the big part. For the direction, and I think the big kudos should went to our creative director, Mateusz Leonard, because he was kind of keeping whole production, making sure that we all know in which direction we are going.
Yeah, thank you. And the second question is also about level design. So you mentioned that it's kind of let me go in another direction. Yeah. So many things in the game resemble what's happening in the main protagonist's mind, etc., etc. Yeah. And you mentioned that it was also important on level design side to kind of showcase that. So, and you mentioned this clockwise approach, etc., etc. So maybe you have any more cases like that. And I'm mostly talking about the second part of the game where you have lots of those really corridors and labyrinths there. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, generally, the progression is that we had this, as I mentioned, this labyrinth structure. Yeah, so you are going kind of deeper, and And the highlight, I think, is when you go downstairs from this like historical society. It's like this part when you like downhill to the prison section and then to the labyrinth section. So like the progression within levels themselves, like and the amount of like the crazy labyrinth type of things progresses with the progression that is kind of like within the character itself. I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, like, did you try to make sure that it's not still frustration for the player, or just then to like make a player frustrated there? Or like,
no. Obviously,
yeah.
like we didn't want players to be frustrated by no means. So no, we always were very careful to kind of build everything to correspond with a narrative part, because it's really important. The whole game is, that's the thing for the Silent Hill 2, yeah. But by no means like we aimed to cause frustration in players.
Okay, thank you.
We can do one more.
Hi, thank you for attention to the detail and much of the respect to the original content. I wanted to ask, were the apartments the most tricky part in being faithful to the original game, or was there something else which made many more problems?
Well, I think it's subjective, because I believe that every level designer can tell you that this level that they were working on was the trickiest part. Apartments were tricky because of this realism that needed to be incorporated in the gameplay that doesn't need that much. I don't know if you know what I mean, but like the geometry should always support the gameplay, and it was kind of hard to balance the believability aspect of it with this fun with playing that. But I believe we had quite a brainer with prison, but because like we didn't know how big that location should be, and it was like technologically challenging because we had mannequin spiders, like so the spider creatures that go on walls and ceilings, and it was it was quite a road with that too. So because of that technological challenge, I would say that the prison might be the tricky part too.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for.
Thanks once again.
Thank you so much, Monika.